Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. We have another very special guest. Before we introduce our guest, we do want to give a shout out to our co-host, Corinne French.
Woohoo! So glad to be here today.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars away to public education in the form of a free gift. So if your district needs additional funding for teacher salaries or whatever they need, reach out to Ideal Impact. Okay, today we have Dwayne Brashear from Rogers ISD. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, you might be muted.
No.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Hear you
Hello.
now.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes. Very excited to be interviewing you here today. And just so everybody can get to know you a little bit, could you share a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. So I am jumping into my 20th year of education. So 20 whole years. I come from a family of educators. My dad's an ag teacher. Both my brothers are ag teachers. My sister-in-law's an ag teacher. I'm the weird one that went into administration. So started my career as a first grade teacher in Splendora, spent 10 years in Cameron ISD teaching third grade, then jumped into administration as an AP for Splendora ISD, and then little bit at Lexington ISD, went back to Splendora as a principal, and so got to be an elementary principal in Splendora ISD. Was hired by Rick Kirshner, Jeff Burke, amazing leaders, and then they let me be an elementary principal, trusted me to be a junior high principal, and then got to go into central administration about a year ago. Rick Kirshner was the superintendent in Royal ISD, great man, great district. And the man that hired me into administration hired me as my first central office job. And so went down there, was an assistant soup, and then got to come home to Rogers as the superintendent.
That's so cool.
I think we interviewed Dr. Kirshner before. Is it Dr. Kirshner or Rick?
Yeah,
Kirshner.
I
yeah,
do think I think we interviewed him.
we
Like,
about a year
yeah,
ago, I think.
yeah.
Okay.
This is our third year on this podcast, and it's like definitely some of the coolest people we've been able to interview. And I love when like they know each other. We're like, oh
When
my
the
gosh,
circle just kind of comes back around.
yeah.
Yeah. Rick is wonderful. He was the first person to see something in me. He sat on my committee as for my first assistant principal job. He sat on the committee as an assistant soup and grew me as a leader, grew me as a principal, and then hired me as an assistant soup, and just very that's what education is about, right? Building people and being mentors and being multipliers. So that was a great experience.
I love
Yes,
that.
yes.
20 years also. Congratulations. I think
Thank
that's a big deal, and not to take lightly in this given day and age. And the ag piece, my gosh, my favorite. This is some of my favorite, my personal kids' favorite teachers have been their ag teachers.
you.
So yeah, yeah.
Well, our Rogers ISD's teacher of the year is our ag teacher. His name
Oh,
is Mr. Doobie. The kids call him Doc. And so we just submitted his name to Region 12 to try to be the Region 12 teacher of the year. And he's an ag teacher, and I feel right at home with that. So we're excited to celebrate him too.
So what's happening at Rogers ISD? What's kind of the focus right now, or something exciting, or maybe it's a challenge I've overcome? What's
Yeah.
happening?
So, I'll start by saying that our community and our town and our district is amazing. It's just a lot of good people with strong values who love kids and love their community and are just wanting things to get better every day. And I love that. I love the growth mindset. So I think what's really exciting for Rogers is it's a town of stability. Our last high school principal was here, I think, 11 years. The middle school principal was here 7 years. The last superintendent was here 7 years. It's a town of stability. People come and they stay, and there's a reason. And so this year things are shaking up a little bit. Our superintendent, the last superintendent got another job, which is, we're always growing and moving into different positions and, spreading the wealth of education. And so then our high school principal, he was promoted to a director position with a district down the road. And then our middle school principal, her husband took a great job in I think Fort Bend, Fort Worth, somewhere area. And so that left us looking for, I mean, that's a heavy lift, right? New superintendent, new high school principal, new middle school principal. And so that's been our focus for the last month is getting those hires right. Making sure that we find the right high school principal, the right middle school principal. We had our director of kind of assessment accountability federal programs. She retired after like 37 years in education.
Wow.
And so we're filling some really big shoes. So that's been our focus is spending a lot of time with the teachers and the community and the kids. I've met with a student advisor committee and saying, what do you want? What do you want in your next high school principal? What do you want in your middle school principal? What are we looking for in a director? And, I think we got it right. We just hired a new middle school principal, Chase Coulter, and he was an assistant principal from Magnolia. And we hired a new high school principal, Drew Escamilla. He was high school assistant principal from Leander, and they're rock stars. I mean, we got it right. We knocked it out the park.
Awesome. For these roles, right? So you'll have some awesome opportunities for people, that are looking to get into public education or advance in their career. What's the best way for them to? Should they just go to the website and look for the job description and apply that way? Or?
Yeah, one of the things that we've worked that I guess is important for us is telling our story, right? Making sure that people know who Rogers ISD is. So we've worked really hard to kind of start increasing our social media presence, and we're starting with Facebook. My 19-year-old will tell me that Facebook is for old people, but
my kids tell me that too.
Yeah. She's like, Mom, Facebook is for old people. Post it on TikTok. I said, I'm not posting it on TikTok. But so we're really working on our social media presence, starting with Facebook. But our website, right, Rogers ISD, going into the the openings page. I put my email and my phone number everywhere because if you want to teach and you want to come to Rogers, I want to talk to you. It's a great place to be. So we, I'll make the plug for the district. We are looking for a rock star math teacher. We need a high school algebra 2 geometry teacher. And we have the best kids and the best staff. Great things are coming. So that's really our big opening right now is high school math. We need a rock star. We're not settling. We're going to wait for the right one.
Awesome. And for those that don't know where Rogers ISD is located, can you kind of explain exactly
Oh man, my husband is sitting and listening and laughing, I promise, because I have an awful sense of direction. So what I'll say is Temple, Waco area, Cameron, Texas, right down the road. But if you know where Temple, Waco is, you can find Rogers. But my husband's laughing somewhere. He's laughing real hard because I have an awful sense of direction.
I do too. It's okay. You have other things right. You can tell you have plenty of things right.
I always say I have other strengths. I'm good at other things. And MapQuest.
Yeah.
I have MapQuest.
Yeah. I mean, I when I'm working on my graduate degree, and when I drive to my other campus, it takes me a different way every time. And I told my spouse, I was like, if I ever don't have my phone, there's no way I can get to class.
No.
And it's just that because it's driving to Dallas and there's too many, there's no way, I don't even remember it. So it's okay. We have other strengths.
Oh, I'm a small town girl, right? I was raised in a small town. I'm a small town girl. So when I went to Royal, it was in the Katy area, and I was, coming from Sealy, which isn't big, but they would make fun of me. I had to put it in my maps every day, like get to work. And they would say, you're still putting it in your maps? Yes. I'm still putting it in my maps. I'm a small town girl.
That's okay. I love that. You said something earlier that I forget your exact words, but basically like the idea of like being tapped or recognizing that someone recognized you and said that. Can you tell us more about that? That is such an important part, I think, of any kind of a leadership journey. But I think it's helpful for people to hear, like, how did that happen? Were you waiting for someone to like notice you? Tell us a little bit more about like
So,
that.
for me, I loved being a teacher. I loved teaching. I grieved when I left the classroom. I wasn't one that was like, I'm tired of doing lesson plans. I'm tired. I love teaching. And so, for somebody to, say, hey, like, I see greatness in you. That's, that's a big deal, and I think what's even a bigger deal is when, you get to learn from somebody like that, you realize that being a leader is more than just, leading a campus or leading a district or leading a team. Being a leader means that you have this moral obligation to be a multiplier,
Mm.
that, that now, it's my job to find greatness in other people. And if somebody was to say, Duana, like, what are you going to hang your hat on? If what's your big thing in education? As a campus principal, I was an elementary principal and I was a middle school principal over the course of 6 years, 5 years. Over the course of 5 years, I had to hire a few different APs. Number one, I never interviewed outside my own district as a principal. I always promoted from within. I mean, I never even interviewed. I mean, we found greatness. I won't say I'll say the district. Splendora worked really hard to find greatness in our teachers and promote from within. And so I never even interviewed outside our district. But just as special is when I left Peach Creek Elementary as the principal, my AP, Jessica Sal, then became the principal. And she's still the principal of that campus. And she's doing a great job. She's working through some really hard things right now. And then when I was the junior high principal, one of our APs, Molly Buford, when I left, became the principal. And she's doing a great job. And I have another AP, Nathan Bally, who was my AP with me for a couple of years, and now he's a digital learning coordinator. And so that's what it's about. It's about growing people and sending them out into the world of education so that public education can do what it was made to do, which is take care of kids. Take care of kids.
I never I every time I have this podcast for 3 years, I end up crying. There's something that just moves me and I can't hold back the tears. Poor Gary, like he's like probably has something he wants to say next, but I'll make this quick. You said the word multipliers, like your job, like this moral, I love that. I think like this moral responsibility to create multipliers, and that makes for strong public ed. But you can tell that you love the people that you work with, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's so important. And I work at a university, and I love the people I work with, and it's so important because our students then see that.
Mhm.
And so I just want to say, like, it's such a joy to get to know you, and I realized our mutual connection. Splendor ISD board member Dan Muirhead. Dan, I
Yes.
think he told me about you one time, actually. I think
Well, I hope it was all
it
good.
was all good. That's why I was
So
like, yeah,
I'll tell you, Splendora, the song, The House That Built You. Splendora is the house that built me. Rick Kirshner was there as an assistant soup, and he saw greatness in me, and getting to follow Jeff Burke as an AP and then a principal. It taught me, how to lead. It taught me how to follow, and it taught me how to make decisions that are right for kids, and to give back to public education what public education gave to me.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the house that built me.
That's so beautiful. I was like, I
Yeah.
think in this space, like you mentioned so many people's names that I think we forget sometimes that there's enough space for all of us to succeed
Mhm.
here. Like
Oh yeah.
there's plenty of space. And I think maybe people don't realize, like, the outside world might not realize what it's like to be a teacher and then move up as a principal,
Mhm.
and some might not even want that, but then the ability to do that in the space of it. I'm in K-12, I'm in higher ed, but so I don't and I was a board member, so I understand it just a little bit. I don't understand it the same way you do, but it's beautiful, like hearing the way that you have been loved and you are loving back the students. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, now yeah, definitely didn't want to cry. But
It's the
Gary, I
best
know
part of education.
yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
Gary has a question for us.
Yeah. Curious. So what makes Rogers ISD different than some of the other districts in the area?
Um, so, you know, man, different, I would say unique, right? Like, special is this is a town that pulls together no matter what. I'll give you a great example. We had Temple had some pretty heavy storms around the third and fourth week of May. Lots of damage. Our buildings were not damaged. Our buildings had electricity, but about 60% of our district was without power. A large part of our district drives from the Temple Belton area, and so we had to cancel the last day of school, which was heartbreaking, right? We stole something from our kids. We stole something from our seniors that are leaving, from our fifth graders that are going to middle school, from our eighth graders that are going to high school. We took away that experience, and that was heartbreaking for me. I didn't sleep that night, but I I I wake up, we go, I meet with our seniors at about 10:30 that morning. They had a practice. The last day was also our graduation day. So I meet with our seniors, I'm talking to them, and they said, Miss B, are we going to have graduation? And I said, if it's not raining, we're going to have graduation. What's important to y'all? And they said, we just want to graduate on our field. We don't want to go anywhere else. We don't want to go inside the school. Like, we want to be on our field. We want to be with our family. This is our town. And so I think that speaks to what the values are of our town, is that they wanted to be with their people. And I think, and they did. We missed the weather. It was beautiful. Every kid walked across the stage. We all stayed dry. Fireworks, wonderful,
Oh,
fabulous. But I'll tell you, equally impressive was within hours, our community, our PTOs, our teachers, they mobilized to make sure that our seniors still got to walk the elementary one last time. I mean, and I'm talking elementary people do it right. They had cookies, there were balloons, they were walking the hall, like teachers and community everywhere. Our eighth graders, we did an eighth grade award ceremony for them that next day, which was supposed to be a teacher work day. So instead of teachers cleaning their classrooms and doing those things, they did an award ceremony for our eighth graders. And then our elementary did a clap out for our fifth graders on their work day. So
oh,
that's what Rogers is, right? Rogers is we're gonna do whatever it takes to come together. We're gonna make it happen. And so where I went to bed, on Wednesday night, just sick because of what we were stealing from kids, they got it all back because of who our community was. And that was my first, I guess, eye-opening to this is Rogers. This is how we do things here.
Love it. Love it. No, that's awesome. It's always interesting to hear how each district has something special about them. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, last question as we close out here, because we're running short on time. If you were to have another leader, superintendent leader, come on the podcast, who would you recommend?
So y'all have already had Rick Kirschner, right? So
Yep.
he would be one. Couple, man, there's so many people. So Bobby Ott from Temple
Yep.
is amazing. Don't know if y'all got to talk to him yet, but man, he's doing really great things for education, and he has just moved his people through a really hard time. Um, Dr. Will Paul, he's the superintendent of White Oak ISD. And he was the middle school principal when I was an elementary AP in Lexington. And man, talk about a guy that loves public education. So gosh, I could go on, but I won't bug you on the short time.
Love
no,
it. Love it.
we love that. We definitely had Dr. Ott several times, but the person from White Oak, I don't think
Yeah,
we have interviewed that person, so that will be a great,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And his perspective is really unique because he's gone through principal, assistant principal, principal, superintendent. He moved up very quickly because he's amazing, but he was also his kids principal and superintendent. So that's a really
Wow.
unique perspective that he got to lead as a father, and then a husband whose wife is in education, and a leader. So it's pretty neat.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. Well, this has been so delightful.
Yeah, do
I'm
this all
so,
day.
yeah, I know, right? Well, we're talking about having a summit, a virtual summit. So if you're interested in coming back again sometime, it would be a similar
Yes,
way. We'd love to have you
please.
back.
Please.
So,
I could talk about Rogers and public education all day. So anytime.
Love it. Love it. Okay, Superintendent Brashear, thank you so much for joining us today. Corinne, thank you for joining as a wonderful co-host as usual. We're going to close out now. One final shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. If your district needs funding, reach out to Ideal Impact. Don't wait on the government. Hundreds of millions of dollars are waiting for you. Reach out to Ideal Impact. For those that have been tuning in, stay tuned for future episodes of the Educational Leadership Podcast.